So, according to this case that you're articled in, it appears that you're on parole for assault. Would that be correct, Councilman?
I'm actually glad you asked me that. So I've been dealing with this potential assault case for 2 years. The last email that I sent to the courts was in July of 22. I've not heard back from the court since then. The case that I'm involved in is ultra political from the individual that accused me of assault, AKA poking. So that article that you're talking about from KCUR, I was surprised because I've never been to court and been sentenced to parole. I appealed the original case, and I've never had a court case since the appeal.
All right. Rodney Bland, president of Freedom, Inc., a historically African-American political organization. He seems to be a very powerful figure. How has this affected you politically?
Well, you can see the effects in this campaign. So currently I'm running the outsider versus the insider campaign. Mr. Bland is heavily connected in the political and lobbying arena. He's the current lobbyist for Jackson County. He's also the current lobbyist for the Metro, and he has several other lobbying contracts. When it comes to black elected officials in industry, since I've been in office, you'll see typical black elected officials are Freedom Inc. members. Typically, Freedom Inc. controls, in my opinion, the ideology and or, if not the ideology, at least the output of those elected officials. So politically, the entire time I've been in office, from at the state level to the city level, I've literally had to combat parasites that are in our community that are politically connected, that, what's the word I want to use, that reallocates resources outside of the community, and most of these resources are utilized off of the lack thereof. So when you talk about dollars that are meant for impoverished communities, or dollars that are meant for development, or dollars that are meant for community building, or dollars that are meant for public safety, we typically see these dollars wrapped around to individuals as associated with Freedom Inc. on the east side of Kansas City, which again makes my job extremely hard, because my job is about bringing resources to the people, not necessarily bringing resources to embedded institutions.
So, at one point in time, were you a victim of some type of assault?
This is all still interconnected. So when you talk about the initial assault case for Mr. Bland, when you talk about my opponent, who happens to be a member of Freedom Inc., a board member of the CCD board, which the majority of board members of the CCD board is Freedom Inc. members, and then Ryan Black, who was alleged to be hired by my opponent sometime in last October, who's consistently tried to be a member of Freedom Inc., or at least get Freedom Inc.'s endorsement. It's all tied together. You will see several pictures of state representatives with Mr. Black. Some of these state representatives, Michael Johnson would be one of my opponent's cousin. So not only do you have pictures of them at the Capitol, pictures of them around other elected officials and other dignitaries. And the only reason I mention that is it shows access, it shows connectivity. So I don't think Mr. Black coming to my house was an anomaly. I don't think Mr. Black coming to my house was anything that was individually drawn. I think Mr. Black coming to my house had everything to do with his association with Freedom, his association with my opponent, and their desire to make me act out of character.
So over a period of time, man, there was a lot of hoopla about this poking incident or what have you. Bottom line, did you do it?
I'm glad you being direct, man. They said I poked a gentleman for 30 minutes. It's impossible to poke somebody for 30 minutes. They said that I ran up on the gentleman. There's 13 cameras on 18th and Vine. In none of those cameras do you see me running up on Mr. Bland. What you see is Mr. Bland coming to me. What you see is Mr. Bland antagonizing me on those cameras. But those cameras wasn't presented in court. The testimony of individuals that was inside the restaurant, outside the restaurant, sitting in cars, walking by, none of that was heard in court. The extended police interviews of Rodney Bland, his sister, her husband, and their other friend wasn't presented in court, in contrast to their testimony that was contradictory in court. None of that was presented. So no, I did not poke him. On the video cameras, you will see that I did not poke him. And one of the things that has been extremely irritating to me is the lack thereof anybody looking for any facts. The media hasn't looked for any facts, and I've been consistently saying that it's on camera. The police department didn't look for any facts. When I called the detective,
I mean, but even with that being said, why would somebody go to the extent of just saying you did it just to say that you did it?
Good question. At the beginning, I told you Mr. Bland lobbies for several entities, right? So if we look at the network of Freedom Inc. members in their appointed positions, we have one member that's over the county assessment process. So if we look at the areas that ballooned and we look at the areas that they have benefactors in, we see that their benefactors did not balloon, but the poor people around there, the black and brown people, stuff went up. When you look at the elected positions and the amount of dollars that are allocated for poor issues, whether that's development, whether that's infrastructure maintenance, whether that's programming, and programming can range from crime prevention to programs that are supposed to mediate. These are, and not only community resources too. So when you look at the east side and you look at the amount of fictitious programs that we have, when you look at the amount of connected individuals that we have, you'll see why a lot of the people in the Boule, a lot of Boule members don't want me here. I don't want to be a Boule member. I don't want to sit at their table, nor do I respect how they have made their living. I represent the people, and that's a direct threat to those that, again, parasite themselves off of the community.
Understood.
CCD board, just to give you an example, that's $10.5 million yearly, only for the east side. And that's supposed to be meant for development, workforce stabilization, neighborhood improvements, community programs, gardens. But we see none of these potential prospects getting funded from the CCD board. What we see is the same developers since 2019, since I've been on the council, get repetitive funding for the same projects. Out of the housing trust dollars, we get 52 units, 12 projects, $11 million. That is not even mathematically possible.
So can we expect to see any sort of change in the near future with these things?
Yes. One of the things that I've been encouraged about is the ability of people in the community to cut through nonsense and to gravitate towards facts. Since I've been on the council, one of the things that we've been trying to cement is a separation between opinions and what is realistic and what is real. And we do that by going through contracts, we do that by going through facts, we do that by educating the constituent base on how to actually access resources and services. We also created an Office of Citizen Engagement, which will be fundamental in redirecting program dollars, social justice dollars, and healthcare related dollars. And what I mean by that, the health department does a lot of studies off of poor areas, whether that's lead abatement, the effects of lead, the effects of food deserts, the effects of unhealthy alternatives, but we have no programming that actually fixes that necessity or that lack thereof. And the Office of Citizen Engagement allows nonprofits, for-profits, individuals, etc., to access DLJ dollars, implement their own programs, create their own infrastructure, which gives you natural community self-determination. So yes, I know it's going to change. It is changing. The problem historically has been people not engaged in politics, and then you have a whole barricade of fictitious individuals that is feeding people phony information, what makes it hard for people to navigate to the truth.
So, are there any misconceptions in the public about you from your point of view that you would like to correct?
Couple. One, that I poked a gentleman for 30 minutes. like, I mean, my fingers ain't even that long, bro. 30 minutes, that's a long time to poke.
Yeah.
Two, the insiders have been trying to put out a narrative that I don't work with everybody.
Yeah.
Now, this is a true and not true narrative. So when it comes to the community, black, white, Latino, undecided, I work for you. I work with you. When it comes to industry, I'm not necessarily anti-industry, but if 1 and 1 adds up to 16, I'm gonna have a whole bunch of questions. I'm gonna inquire to try to understand how 1 and 1 became 16. And if it doesn't add up, I'm not gonna support it. If it's something that redirects taxpayer dollars away from taxpayers' benefits, I probably won't support that. If it's something that redirects taxpayer dollars to taxpayers' benefits, I'm gonna support that all day. So again, with me and in Kansas City, the thing that I noticed is that the council or local governance has been controlled by industry for years. And industry pretty much dictates what happens and what does not happen. And I think as long as the citizens blindly sit at home and don't get involved, we will have a stagnated system that we've been having. But as soon as the citizens get engaged, that stagnated system cannot exist because it only exists off of people's misunderstanding. And again, that's why we created the Office of Citizen Engagement and why we do the No More Excuses Coalition, because the more we educate folks, the easier my job is.
So if people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they be able to contact your office?
2 ways. Professionally, you can contact my city office, area code 816-513-6511, or you can email me, brandon.ellington@kcmo.org. If you would like to help me out in the selection going against the insiders in the boule, that would be electellington.com, or the email would be electbellington@gmail.com.